In this video I'll show how to use 3dsMax design for visualizing light levels within inside your building or design project. So we'll work with input parameters, how the tool is calculating, how we can use output and visualizations, and which types of analysis can be helpful looking at the interior design conditions of our building. I have now opened 3dsMax Design, and in this design tutorial I'm going to show how we can use 3dsMax Design for doing daylight visualizations, daylight simulations on a grid, and how we can overlay data on a picture to see the amount of illuminance hitting the different surfaces in our model. The great thing about 3dsMax is that it really have a high degree of interoperability with other Autodesk products, and because we need fast feedback on design when looking at daylight and other parameters, that's really effective to use 3dsMax for doing daylight simulations. So what I did here is that I imported this model here from Revit, and it's really simple to do this. Go here to the 3dsMax icon and just say import, and then you can directly import a Revit file into 3dsMax and then combining it by using Revit materials. And because these programs are using the same material library, it's really, you have already kind of set up the model when you have imported it. Just make sure that you're using mental ray materials and mental ray settings, because this is the way that you can do physical accurate daylight simulations with inside 3dsMax. So from Revit, my daylight system was already imported, and a camera view that I set up in the model, because this is kind of the space I want to take a look at. You're also able to, inside 3dsMax, to look at artificial lighting with indoor spaces and on outdoor spaces. So let's mark out the solar system here, and let's set it to Mr. Sky and Mr. Sun, and then we can either import a EPW weather file, or we can just specify the date and time and location here. So just going to setup, and I'm choosing the time I want to look at, and I can actually interactively see this. Let's see, this is the period I want to take a look at, and I want to look at August because it's one of the extreme months for direct light and daylighting, of course, coming into the space here. So when that's set up, I want to go to my rendering here, and I want to go to environment, and I want to set it up using Mr. Physical Sky and Mr. Photographic Exposure Control, because it's using mental ray, and I'm just using here, going to set this for physical based lighting indoor and see the impact here in the viewport. So the first thing I want to do is just to make a quick rendering or daylight simulation here, or visualization. And so I close this down, and I just click here to do rendering of this viewport. And we can now save out this rendering for later analysis. But the next thing we want to do is that we want to lay out a light meter or analysis grid that we can look at in combination with this picture to see the amount of illumination within inside the work plane in the building. So let's save this out here as JPEG here. Let's close this down. The next thing we'll want to do is go to the Lighting Assistant here, go to the Analysis Output tab, and go to Create Light Meter, and just click in the right side and about that size. One a bit annoying thing here is that we can't really auto-fit this, so we have to kind of fit it into the area where we want to put it. About here, if we look here, it looks kind of nice. And we can, of course, if we select it, we can go here to the Modify tab, and we can work a bit more with the scale just here, or work with the width and how many segments we want to have it split up in. We want to look at now is the total illumination, and we can also look at the daylight factor and stuff like that. And we can, of course, when we're done, export the data to a CSV file where we can use it in Microsoft Excel to compare different kind of design alternatives. So just want to take a look at the height here, go to move, and say mark out the grid here, get it there, and we say move, and we just press here 700 like that, about the work plane height here. And then we can just go calculate all light meters now, and we have now calculated the amount of daylight on our analysis grid, and we can use a functionality here under tools calling grab viewport and we can then create a still image, daylight, and we can then grab that and take it out to a picture that we can save for later on. We are, of course, we are able to go in and work with the scale here to say, okay, in the same way that we can use the scale here as an identifier in Ecotect or other programs, we can do that here. Let's say we're between 0 to 5,000 looks, or maybe to 2,000 looks. So in that way, an identifier, we want to see where there's over 2,000 to, let's say, 5,000 looks, because this will be some places here where we will have some possibility for glare. In that way, we can work with the scale and use the scale as an identifier. The next thing we'll do here is that we want to create an image overlay effect to visualize the illumination in combination with the nice daylight rendering we can make here. And we do that by going to create image overlay and say edit, and I already made one here, so we can just activate that, and now it's putting the data on top of this picture. And now the overlay has done, and we get really false color picture here. It's not that useful, but in here we are now able to use the scale again to see whether it's between 0 and 500 and update that and place our own metrics in here. So this is really the workflow using 3dsMax for daylight optimization.